Middleborough Zoning Board of Appeals to order. First item on our agenda this evening will be to approve the minutes of May 27th.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Errors or omissions? Hearing none. Joe?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Myself is in favor. Mike, is that you on the phone?
Mike's not talking.
Not sure.
That's funny. Usually you see a number anyway.
Anyway, motion carries unanimously. All right. Next on our agenda will be...
Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure, I didn't do star six, my bad. I just want to make sure you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, great.
Very good. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. We've approved the minutes, and now we're going to... The next item on our agenda is the organization of the board for chairman and vice chair. And the reappointment of Jack Healy's term is to expire on June 30th, 2021. Jack will need to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen to request reappointment.
Oh, wow. I can certainly...
That's all right. They're not going. They're not meeting for a couple weeks anyway, so
okay.
you've got time.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion
Make a motion.
to have Darren DeGrazia be the chairman of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
And for vice chair?
And Ed Braun? Want to make that part of your motion?
Sure. Sure.
I will add Dr. Edward Braun as vice chair of the
And I'll
board.
second that as well.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those, Joe?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Salamini?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next item on our agenda will be as a discussion for the summer schedule. Normally during the summer we meet once a month due to vacation schedules. However, July we're going to have a conflict with a hearing coming up, so I'm going to have 2 meetings in July, or we will run afoul of the 65-day rule requirement. We have a petition coming in from Charlotte Court.
Charlotte Court, lot
Our favorite place.
3A.
So that would have to be on
We'll have to hold that one on July 22nd.
July 22nd.
So July would be July 8th and the 22nd, and then what do you guys want to do for August? We either have the 12th or the 26th.
I'm not going to be at either of them, I can
Okay.
pretty much guarantee.
Doesn't
Let's
matter.
shoot for the 12th then.
Fine by me. Doesn't
August
matter.
12th and none on the 26th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so 8, 22, and 26.
Yes, so July
I'm sorry,
8th,
8, 22, and
July 22nd,
and
August
12.
12th.
Yep.
Okay.
That will take us through till September. Normally we would only have one in July, but we've got,
Yeah, they filed, so we just have to hold it within the 65 days.
Yeah.
And August kicks it out of the 65 days, so.
because anything that we don't hear within 65 days automatically becomes a fait accompli.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty convenient.
I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. All right. All right, so we got that discussion out of the way. There was members of the board wanted to put a discussion on for the proposed site plan review and joint meeting with the planning board and the selectmen, which will be on It was to be on June 15th, but that meeting has been moved to June, was it 21st?
Well, no, we don't have an exact date yet. Once I have an exact date, I can notify everybody.
All right,
The
so
planning
soon-
board is putting it on their agenda to discuss, I believe, Tuesday night, and then they'll discuss for another date.
Okay.
Once I know that date, I'll let
Apparently, the
board
Board of
know.
Selectmen had a conflict, so,
Oh, okay.
so that discussion won't, that joint meeting won't happen on June 15th.
The next planning board meeting after the one they're having on Tuesday isn't until July 6th.
That's what Leanne said in her email, yeah.
Okay.
So it would be probably sometime in July.
So theoretically, we won't be discussing this joint meeting until July, but it could change. I'm just guessing based on the thing. Did everybody receive a copy of the draft proposal? I did participate in the joint meeting. I don't know if, I'm not sure how many of the rest of us did. I don't remember who was there. I know you were there.
Jack?
You and Jack were there.
Yeah, we were there.
Bob, were you at the last?
That was there,
Yeah, you were there too. Okay. So I guess I'll basically just open the floor. I mean, whoever wants to start. I know Bob had some. Mike, I'm sorry, excuse me. You'll forgive me if I call you Bob. I have a friend of mine named Bob Salamini. Mike, if you want to start, you have questions, concerns on the draft proposal?
I'll defer to someone else on this for now.
Okay. I think for myself, and this is only for me speaking, not as a chairman of this board in particular, but my own personal thoughts on this. I'm not sure what the genesis of this bylaw was, as to why we need it. I'm concerned that we're taking general use stuff that was normally legally by right, and we're gonna make it a special permit. I think that complicates things. Now, I've been told that every other town around us is already doing this, but that still doesn't satisfy my question as to why we need it. If we've got, I can't think of any projects that have been done terribly wrong, and if somebody else has some history on that, I'd gladly be educated on it, but I haven't seen anything that requires this to be a bylaw. So for myself, I've got a lot of questions, and maybe those questions can be answered at the joint meeting with the selectmen and everybody else. I don't know, I feel like we came into this in the 7th inning, because we had no discussion with us when this originated, so the first time I saw this was at that joint meeting, basically. I mean, I got a copy of the draft a week before, but, so, I'm curious as to why the planning board thought we needed to do this, or if it was, because of this South Coast Rail that they decided that we needed to do this. And there may be a good reason for it, and I'm open to hear that. I haven't heard a good explanation for it yet.
I think South Coast Rail is a lot of the explanation.
Okay. Well, maybe there's some more insight that I'm missing. That's all.
Yeah.
For those of you.
Chairman,
Yes, Mike.
sorry. That was well said, by the way, and I mean, those were kind of my thoughts, but you put them in better words than I would have. I didn't understand it. We did come in the 7th inning. I was just scratching my head as to why we need to do this as well. And where did it come from? When I saw that draft, I was like, why do they want to do everything? I think at the joint meeting, I think it was Joe, was more on the lines of, share the work. We can help, and it seemed like the planning board wanted to do it all. So, but you did a very good job kind of explaining us coming into it late, and their opinion is that they want to, do the site plan reviews, and that was kind of like a surprise to you, and I'm glad to hear you put it that way.
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, had they worded the draft differently, they wouldn't have even needed to have consulted us. I mean, it's only because the special permit granting authority in this article was the ZBA and not the planning board, and they wanted to change that. And that's basically why I think we got invited to the meeting was, to, you know, do you care if we take your name off this and put this on something? I'm like, okay, but I don't even know how this got generated, so I don't know why or, you know, so for my own
It
ignorance.
also sounds like they're, you know, doing what we would do because of other towns, as the planning manager said, other towns do it this way. Just because other towns are doing it, but doesn't mean we do it that way.
Well, that's true. I mean, my mother always told me just because everybody else is going to jump off the bridge, there's no reason for you to. If there's a good reason for us to jump off the bridge, you know, you might convince me. I'm not convinced at this point, and like I said, my instinct isn't to support it at this point. I'm not saying I can't be convinced, but those of you who know me well enough to know that I don't like regulating things just for the point of being able to regulate it. Now, I understand there are people who work in government who see that from a completely opposite point of view. Never saw a regulation they didn't like, so. We do things a little different here in Middleborough with respect to a lot of things as it applies to zoning. A lot of the stuff we do in the residential areas is what some places would call village zoning. You've got a lot of people who either own their own business or have a side hustle that they're running out of their home that, you know, in technical terms, if it was considered commercial use, you wouldn't be allowed, but a lot of that is allowed and has been for time immemorial. And which, you know, makes us have to walk a fine line on some things and other things, you know, we take a harder line too. So, I don't know.
Now, this would still this change would still require a town meeting vote, 2/3 vote, would it not?
Yes. Well, so what's going to happen is we're going to go to a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, and we can all air our concerns, or maybe we can get educated a little better on it. Like I said, I don't know where the research came from, so I have no idea how this document was generated and why, and, you know, I may feel differently after it's explained better. I don't know.
It was generated, Mr. Chairman, it was generated by the staff working with Serpent.
Yep.
Staff at Serpent.
But I don't know if it was out of a desire to get us in compliance with everybody else around us, or if it's, you know, I mean, if you can show me the projects in town that were done so horribly and you know, I mean, even the conversation with the building inspector is like, you know, what are we doing wrong here? Because, you know, I mean, if we're having problems, then we should address them absolutely. I'm, you know, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting anarchy here. I'm just saying you know, you're going to take away somebody's by right to do something. You should have to have a good reason for that, as far as I'm concerned. Because it affects what you can do, and it affects the cost of everything you're going to do. Well,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
well, we were having a discussion about common sense a little while ago.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I suggest, if anyone on the board has any questions that they would like to have answered, seeing we have perhaps a little more time before the joint meeting would occur, we submit the questions to Tammy, and she sends them off to Leanne, and perhaps we can get those answered long before the meeting.
That's fine.
Because sometimes
I'm
those
not
answers
opposed to that.
may generate another question.
In my experience, they usually do.
They usually do, that's right. So that way, we could perhaps get the underlying parts of the questions taken care of.
Yep.
Before we get to the joint meeting.
So all this is doing is basically adding another layer to the permitting process.
Yes, in general use, as it
It's
pertains to
expanded.
commercial property. It's not,
expanded.
it's not residential, but it goes down to 1,000 square feet. It's not,
Yeah, it's tiny.
not insignificant.
Yeah, I mean, from someone who does this for a living, it's tough enough getting through the building department with the ineptitude of people who work in building departments. And I don't pull permits in this town, so I'm not talking about Middleborough. But just in general, most people who work in building departments don't know their left from their right. So now you're
Well,
going to add another layer.
and not only that, I think, I don't know, I guess what I took away from that meeting was, some people felt that other people weren't doing as good a job as they could have, or that was the underlying tone. I actually tried to get somebody to be more specific about that, and I didn't get a really good answer to it, but it's one of those things where we want to do it because we do this every day. And I was like, okay, well, we do it, we just don't do it in that kind of volume because we don't get that many projects over 20,000 square feet, but we do it. And we're sending it out to pretty much the same engineer. I said, so I mean, all the things that you're talking about are being done, so
Yeah.
if we're doing a horrible job, just say so. Tell me
Point
where
to the
tell me
reasons.
where we're going wrong. That's all.
I think it's a big overreach. Just
I don't disagree.
and
That's
it
that's why I
costs
said
some time.
that's why the question comes up. Why do we need this?
Yeah.
Is there a problem that we're not addressing? Is you know. That's
They make it more difficult for people who come to this town to start a business, grow a business, do anything. They'll just go elsewhere.
well, that's true. But like I think the planning board that night had a lot of great questions about why do we have gas moratorium? Do we have the capacity for electric or water to bring in some of these bigger, the Amazon thing was mentioned, not specifically, but everybody's been talking, but
Why do we
everybody's
have
put
a
that
gas
label on it,
moratorium?
so
We
I
have
don't
a
know.
gas moratorium because the gas supply to the northeast, the whole northeast of the country, doesn't exist. There's very little room
Get-
for.
Well,
It's getting worse by the day.
Yeah, it impacts our ability to attract and even to entertain,
But we're in good company in the Northeast. I mean, multiple states have the same problem. Every
Well,
every community in it.
for all this talk about green energy and all this stuff,
Maybe some
we just
windmills
keep
will take
shooting
care of it.
ourselves in the foot. We closed the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant. I mean, these, zero carbons, I'm just saying, it's all water vapor. It's as green as it gets. But but those are gonna be hurdles that are gonna have to be addressed at some point. I mean, the tax base for this town is gonna have to take the hit. Other than that, I mean, we're fairly inexpensive comparative to other towns on the average, but you can't, you gotta pay for that $103 million high school and all these new buildings. It's expensive.
So then you make it tougher to attract new business.
Well, there's two ways you can go, right? We're either gonna invite business, or you're gonna build more houses. And houses is the most expensive way to go, because they use most of the services. So for every 100 extra houses you build, that means another fireman, it means another policeman, it all adds to the cost.
Yeah. Now, it's especially true with multiple units, like we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if Amazon doesn't come in, I mean, we're not kidding ourselves, that property will be sold for something, one way or the other.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
Well, I think in terms of, we're talking about possibly 20 units per acre, 40 units per acre. These are real numbers that
Oh,
have been
yeah. No,
batted around. And that scares the hell out of me. I sit in my 2-acre lot with 1 unit on it
Yep.
and visualize 20 to 40. Not a pretty picture.
Oh, no, I only sit on an acre, so I know, I get it.
Look at next week's hearing, we're trying to get 6 duplex on what was that, 3-acre lot, whatever that one is.
Well, I actually had a proposal across the street from my house. They wanted 10 houses on 4 acres.
Really,
And we had town water out there, so that's how they got around the,
septic.
yeah, you're talking about 5,000 square foot lots in South Middleborough. Now, it's never been built, it hasn't happened, but.
Find some Indian arrowheads out there.
No, actually, it was funny, they only have 40 feet of frontage, so they don't even technically have the proper frontage for a road, but it didn't matter. The HCD said, no, you're just trying to be exclusionary, too bad. So, I spent a lot of personal money fighting that. We took a bus to Boston, we went to the hearings, I mean, we worked hard on that one. John Whitten was the attorney for that, and I think we've lost every fight, but you know what, it's been held up for the last 20 years. So, I think my daughter was 3 when we started, but she's 23 now, 24, be 24. So that's my only input on this draft. I don't, I have no problem if it passes and we end up being the special permit granting authority. I think if they want to push forward on this, I think they should change some of the language in this. And I think, don't think 1,000 square feet is a reasonable bottom for that. Because I think it just affects way too much. But I think that was the purpose of the way it was drafted, was to encompass as much as possible. And I get from a planning aspect and from wanting to control or to have as much input on everything that possibly gets done. I mean, if I put a planner's hat on, I could understand wanting to be able to do that, but if I put my contractor's hat on or a property owner's hat on, I'm looking at it from a completely different view, and all of a sudden, things that I had a right to do, now I've got to ask permission to do, and I'm not sure I like that either. So, but everything's in the details and the art of compromise, so. Like I said, I'm not for it as it stands, but like I said, it's not that I can't be convinced, but we'll see. Other than that,
The thought is that it's going to be July 5th or thereabouts.
I think, yeah, July 6th.
I think you'll know better at your planning board meeting, because I
Yeah.
think they're gonna have a better
They're gonna
idea.
discuss it, when's your next meeting, next Tuesday?
Tuesday.
They're gonna discuss it next Tuesday, and then, I think, kick it off, because they want Board of Selectmen there as well, so. As soon as I get that date, I can, make sure everybody's aware of it, and do it. I'll send out the date.
Chairman,
Yes, Bob. Oh, Mike, excuse me.
did you call me Bob again?
I did. And you got the M up
Okay.
there, I'm sorry, your name's right there, I just wasn't looking at the computer.
At what point should the board take a position on it? As it's written now, should someone make a motion? Do we approve it as is, or is it too premature for that?
I would say it's too premature, we're only in discussion phases at this point. The board can, I mean, we can take a position on this if we choose, or we can just leave it as it is. We don't have to take a position.
The reason I ask is, if we don't take a position and it goes to town meeting, it could get approved anyway, correct?
Yep, but you're free to go to town meeting as a, you're a tax-paying member of the town, you could go to vote to support it or vote to deny it, however you see fit. It doesn't take a position. In fact, if this board took a position, an individual member could still go to that meeting and vote against it if they chose to.
Oh, absolutely, but I think the board serves a purpose as a voice to the people who attend public meeting, that if we, have looked at it thoroughly like we have and oppose it, I think the townspeople would appreciate us putting the effort in, and it would have influence.
I don't disagree.
I think, in other words,
I don't disagree, but you have to know what you're voting for or against, and right now, this is a draft. So this is not the final product.
I agree, but I think before the town meeting, we should take a vote, just like the FinCom does and other committees do, whether the town approves it or not. The boards or committees that are often appointed by the selectmen to review things, they come up with an opinion, of course, the town can vote against it, but
Yep.
they did their homework and they looked at it like we are doing here and discussing it openly. I think before town meeting, I would hope that we'll take a vote.
Well, we'll have plenty of time to do that before, you know, this, you won't get a meeting till, next town meeting won't be until the fall anyway. And that's when we'll do, that's when we do the budget, so that it should, you know.
You'd be surprised how fast it gets here, though.
No, I understand, but like I said, there's no point in us voting on anything tonight because it's a draft. We don't know what's actually going to be panned out. Like I said, some of these things could be changed and made more favorable to somebody like me who may end up finding a way to support it. I don't know. Like I said, we've got to kind of take this apart. And whereas we came in on the 7th inning, I kind of missed that whole discussion before this document was drafted. So I'm kind of curious as to, you know, what the genesis of this was that decided we needed to do this. That's all. I couldn't in good conscience propose a vote on this today, and I don't know about anybody else sitting here.
I was just throwing the question out there at
No,
some
it's
point.
fine. That's why we're having a discussion.
And I agree with you, it's a draft. I'm agreeing with a lot of the things you said, not in favor of it as well as it stands.
Oh, trust me,
But-
if I'm not in favor of it, I've got no problem going to a town meeting and getting in front of a microphone. That's not a problem for me.
Yeah, my interest is to get a position of the board, you know, as a
That's fine.
board,
Yep.
at some point.
And
And I
we could do
understand
that
it's
after the
premature.
next meeting, or we could, you know, if things get answered and we can figure out where we want to be as a board, that's fine. I mean, everybody's got their own, everybody comes at this from their own perspective, so that's, you know. And I've never, I never make assumptions when I come to a meeting as to how it's going to turn out. And I can tell you, after doing this for 20 some odd years, I'm always surprised.
I'm good with your answer, thank you.
Okay.
Look at this one paragraph here. At its sole discretion, the SPAA may waive upon written request of the applicant any of the requirements set forth herein in its site plan review, rules and regulations deemed by SPAA not necessary for, so who's checking? I mean, you have sole discretion to waive any of the requirements.
Well, if you think about it, that's exactly what we do. Because, you know, I get this. I get this argument all the time because, you know, we'll ask for letters of opinion from other boards, planning board and the planning board. Sometimes I get 3-4 pages of suggestions of how to write my decision. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. It's a suggestion. We're a board of appeals, so we're taking the rule book and we're saying, okay, we're going to bend the rules to fit this specific project if we feel it fits into this
When
category.
they're taking it out of.
That basically says we can or we don't have to.
We can or we can't, yeah, so if we want.
But this board could technically do the same thing just by not responding to the hearing.
Yeah, but if
Well,
you-
your non-action is actually an action because then it becomes by right by the petitioner. Like if that's 65 days, if we don't hold the hearing, then they get to do what they want anyway. So it's interesting the way it was written. I agree. I find it interesting because on one hand, I think you should be able to bend the rules to certain things if you need to. On the other hand, I can see where it's an avenue for abuse.
I see it on a bigger, grander scale. This isn't, you know, accessory apartments and stuff like that. This is, you know, trying to change the landscape of the town to be from a farming community right to farm to a municipality or a small city. So that's what this is all about. It's trying to change the character of this town.
Well, you know, the funny thing was when I first saw this, and I said, oh, this was really more for downtown for the, because I thought it had a more relationship to the overlay district train, and then I thought, well, you know, they're worried about the historical district downtown, and we're going to have to worry about, you know, the stuff. nobody wants the downtown to change all that much. They like to keep it the way it is. And it was funny because I had an interesting conversation with somebody who had recently come to town and was complaining that the downtown looks the way it's looked for the past 100 and some odd years. I said, when are you guys ever gonna modernize something down there and get something, put something down there that makes somebody wanna come to town?
Charter.
I hope it's great.
I says, I have to agree with you. I says, I can't say that. I said, but I said, you know, I says, change is hard with some people. They don't want to change. They want to keep things the same.
My senior year DECA project was about revitalizing downtown Middleborough.
Really?
I went to the National with it,
Nice.
Colorado.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed in 20 years.
No, it
So
hasn't
my
changed at all.
project wasn't very good, but I got all the way to Colorado with it.
I remember the clothing stores downtown. I remember, God, when you...
Brooks Drug.
Brooks Drugs, yeah, they had 2 locations here, and that's what it was. Almax Supermarket was up there where Rite Aid was. It was Almax. And you had Mostoff's over in Lakeville.
Wasn't there a grocery store on that corner?
Yeah, Almax Groceries, I believe it was.
Was it Fernandes or something like that?
Yeah, maybe it was Fernandes. I think you're right. I think it was Fernandes.
I think my brother-in-law worked there.
And they actually had a soda bar in the front, too.
Mr. Chair,
I'm dating myself. Go ahead.
back to Matt's original question about at sole discretion. As of right now, the planning board, being the SPAA of other things in the bylaws, they have that discretion now with the current rules. So there are a set of bylaws that are in place, a set of rules and regulations that are in place, but a developer can come in, they can make a presentation, they can put it in writing, and the board can have a discussion, and they can waive any of those things. It is their prerogative to be able to do that now. So this wouldn't be any different than what is already in the things that are 20,000 square feet now.
Like most of the stuff we do, like setbacks and stuff like that, we're pretty hard on those, with the exception of 40B. 40B, they come in, they have, the usual thing is the attorney comes in and says, we want a blanket waiver of everything. And we look at them and go, everything, huh? Well, that's not how we do it here. I want a list of everything you want done. What do you need waivers from specifically? And we'll go through them. This is why it takes almost a year to permit one of these things, because you go back and forth. So instead of getting the blanket waiver, and it usually includes all the fees and everything like that, it's like, okay, well, this board doesn't waive fees. We never have, we never do. I don't have a budget, so there's no, the only budget we have is for her salary and postage. I think there's like $300 for postage.
Yeah.
I mean, so everything else has to be done by the petitioners. So it's like, they come in, they ask for all the stuff, so you have to give me a reason why you want these things waived. Now, have we made mistakes in the past? Oh, God, yes. There's a 40B on Highland Street, and the road, I can't think of the name, Crimson Estates? Can't remember.
Yep.
I think it is. Well, the road goes down, it swoops down at the back, it's a significant steep grade, and there's a house at the left and there's one at the bottom. And the developer had wanted a waiver from the height requirement for the foundations. They didn't want to be X number of feet above grade. Well, we allowed the waiver. Well, what we didn't realize was they never put the Cape Cod berms in on the road. So all the rainwater drainage was going into this guy's front yard and was filling up his basement.
Yeah.
And you live and you learn, but, at that point, it didn't seem like that was a big deal, but when things aren't built all the way, it became a huge problem. And, but that road goes down the back and then goes right out to a set of bogs that are off the back there.
That's one of the reasons why we've increased our awareness of the stormwater.
Yes.
And even for projects that are under an acre,
Well,
over 10,000 square feet,
again-
they have to submit something so we can review it. So things like that, can be
But then
prevented.
you've got projects that end up getting reviewed, and then you've got neighbors who just completely lose it over the fact that the project got built. And then it's like, oh, we've got stormwater problems, we got, well, okay, it's a retaining pond, it's designed to hold the water. Well, it shouldn't have water in it. Well, you go out there, I can't tell you how many times I've jumped in my car after the rain, go down to see what the issue is, and there's no issue. I mean, it's functioning the way it's supposed to function. Send the engineer out, it works fine. Well, you're creating a bed for mosquitoes. Frogs gotta eat too, I don't know what to tell you. We're 64 square miles, and a whole lot of it's water here, I'm just saying, there's a lot of swamp here, it's not perfect. So, even doing best practices sometimes, it doesn't work for every scenario, unfortunately. But like all those water drainages on 28, where the new marijuana place is going in, you go up by
Fishes.
Ryko
Yeah.
out there. Those are all 100-year storm
They're always
drains.
full.
They're always full. They're not working the way they're supposed to. That water's always there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would the board consider asking for the opinion of the attorney that we use most often, Mr. Whitten?
I think that, on what? This draft?
The draft, yeah.
We don't have any money to hire him for this particular thing, so I'd have to get authorization to the Board of Selectmen.
May I ask what it is we're asking him to do?
Yeah,
Just to give him, ask him to review this document and give him the benefit of his vast experience.
well, well, from an attorney's perspective, I think what he would want to know is, what do you want to accomplish? Because if you want to accomplish regulation for the purposes of control, I'm sure he'd be all for it. If a lot of times it's how you ask the question.
Well, the density is the issue that scares the hell out of me. And,
In particular on what?
Yeah,
what's that?
which section?
Well, I think it has to do with the entire.
Oh, okay, well, no, I thought you had something specific in mind, I just,
Well, I mean, if we're looking, and it's been stated at meetings that I've attended, that we're looking to create a vehicle for, at least in one or two areas of town, increasing the density dramatically. From, the numbers have been thrown out there of 20 units, 20 or 40 units per acre. I mean,
are you referring to the overlay district for the T?
it's primarily designed to deal with that area, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is separate from that. This is a different document. In other words, I know what you're talking about, and that has to do with
That's the 40R
that's the
overlay
40R
district.
issue. That's
Yeah.
But that's a
but
different
that's
conversation.
completely from the state as far as density for
But how does
affordable
40R relate to this?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. This
Has
is
nothing to do with
this
this.
is commercial. This is commercial zoning for.
Maybe they shouldn't have entitled it Middleborough South Coast Rail.
It's
Chairman?
it's funded.
Chairman?
It's funded by
1 second, Mike.
the South Coast Rail. There's actually, I think it lists here that there's 3 distinct projects that they were funding,
Yeah.
and one of them is this particular document. That is the site plan review bylaw, but this doesn't have anything to do with 40R.
Yeah, site plan review
or-
is going to be separate from your 40R. Your 40R is the state. Now, the town's probably going to have to vote at some point on that, once that's all been,
On-
comes back from.
On the 40R?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be a town vote, but that's totally different than this.
That's a separate
totally
separate issue.
document and discussion.
That will deal with density, Jack. That's.
Chairman?
Yes, Mike.
Chairman, there is commercial content to 40R.
Yeah, it's a mixed-use type thing, but it's...
So that, to say that this document doesn't apply, it does, because this, the construction of new building, addition of floors, everything you're talking about in this document, yeah, it's commercial, but 40R will include commercial too, and Jack mentioned that has a density element to it, so they're interwoven together. An overlay is, it can be 50% commercial, 50% residential, right? So that we wouldn't do a site plan review if it's 40R, a 40R project?
40R would not,
I believe it's planning.
It's half
board.
commercial.
it would have to meet the square footage requirements before it came to us, unless it falls under this other bylaw.
So they overlap.
Yes, but they're not the same in that sense.
Agreed, but they can overlap.
Again, but if you're asking to review part of a document that's not in the bylaw that we're looking at, it's kind of your apples and oranges in that sense. Whether or not they're related. We don't have a legal budget, so I don't have the ability to just hand something to John Whitman and say...
The fact that this document was generated by the $30,000 from South Coast Rail and Serpent just begs the question. Something jumps out to me, like what is, you said it earlier, what is driving this change? What does this need? Well, it's Serpent, the planning board, and $30,000 from a consultant. We didn't ask for this change, right?
We did not, but that's, you know...
Right.
But,
It came because somebody got $30,000 to do it.
well, I understand, but you got the money, and then somebody was put in charge of doing it, just like...
Doesn't mean it's right.
With the zoning board of appeals, we do our job as an appointed authority. We do our job. Our job isn't to write legislation. Normally, a selectman will either appoint a committee, or they could have appointed the planning board to direct this money to come up with this draft decision, this draft plan. Like I said, I wasn't in on that conversation, so I don't know. Yes, does it all seem to be relatively related? Absolutely. Is 40R and site plan review the same thing? No.
Agreed.
However, they may end up being reviewed by the same board. But if you've got a 20,000 square foot commercial use and a 40R, it will most likely end up being before two boards. Which is my other problem with some of this, is we can't constantly be splitting these things. You can't constantly split the baby, because it becomes problematic, because the planning board may want specific things and the zoning board may be willing to allow certain things, or we may have to allow certain things by the particular statute that you're looking at. 40B, we kind of have to give them most everything that they want within reason. The art of the deal in that is the negotiation, not necessarily saying no, but saying yes with conditions. I know a lot of us would like to say no to a lot of this stuff, and I get that, but a lot of times that's not the way to go, because it doesn't work. Because we get sued, we get spanked, and we go back to doing what we were told to do. So it's like,
So at least with 40B, we have some voice. With 40R, we'll have no voice.
I believe it's gonna go to the planning board, but I'm not 100%.
It'll go all to the planning board.
I believe so.
I believe so,
Yeah.
as far as, from what I understand thus far, but like I said...
Agreed, and 40B is residential, and 40R is a mix, and we'll have absolutely no say on anything with 40R, which,
Right.
as Jack mentioned, is near the rail, is 20 units per acre. In the downtown area, the proposal, they're just drafts too, I understand, are 8 per acre. And there's up to 632 residential units proposed in that draft. That is just a draft, is what I've been told. 632 residential units are in that so-called draft document. So
Well, they may fall in the footprint. That doesn't mean they'll all end up being...
it's what I've been told. It's like and if you read the wording of it, it says 632 was the number they come up with, someone came up with, to maximize the incentives by the state. It wasn't necessarily giving Middleborough the town of Middleborough consideration to what we want the character to look like.
Well,
You know,
yeah, but you have to understand when this stuff comes from the state, it's either, you know, most things are either carrot and stick. This is usually stick and a bigger stick. There's usually, we could say no, you know, you keep bringing that up, and I'd like to just say to you, if you say no and you refuse this, that's fine. Where's this town gonna get grant money from? Because
who's this town gonna get what?
Grant money from. If you,
And maybe
the state has already told us, you can turn this down if you want, but if you do, you're eligible for zero money when it comes to, for building or anything like that.
Can I see the document where that is referred, that they're threatening us? Because that sounds like a threat.
Well, like I said.
Grant money, they're gonna deny us grant money if we don't build 632 residential housing?
I don't think they suggested that we have to build 632. That might be in the maximum you get. Now, with 40B and with 40R, when you build apartments, even though not all of them are affordable, you get to count all of them as affordable. And that's why most communities are trying to do apartments, because that's the easiest way, well, it's probably the only mathematical way to get to 10%. You have to get to 10% before you can refuse any of these.
That's another stick from the state, I know.
Well, no, I'm just, like I said, I don't make the rules. Do we have local controllers over this? No, we don't. I'll be the first guy to tell you that. We don't. You can say no, but you're shooting yourself in the foot as far as the town's concerned, because if we're going to lose out on our ability to even apply for grant money, I mean, that's a huge big deal. Now, you can say, okay, well, for the right of being able to control our own destiny, we're going to say no to that money, and that's all well and good. But when you figure out how much money comes from the state, and you figure out what the tax base would have to come up with to make up that difference, I think you'd have a different opinion.
I think, I understand your argument completely about saying no. I just
hope you understand what you're saying no to, that's all.
It doesn't mean we can't, if it's not the fit. The better way to say no is, instead of having, 20 units per acre, is saying no to 20 and giving it some more reasonable number that fits better with the character of the town. It's not no.
I don't disagree with you. I just.
And you know what I'm saying? That's the problem.
I don't know how you get to that negotiating position when you have no power. That's all I'm saying.
We do at town meeting, and if the 40R goes through, if we say 20 and 8, we have no power. It's given away. It's as clear as that. Is if we approve the sketch or the draft as I reviewed it, 8 and 20 for the two areas that's already been submitted to this state, and the town approves it, we have no say. That could be amended, but at town meeting it'll have to be rejected immediately because it says 20 on the South Coast Rail property. You can't. It's either a yes or no. So if they go forward with 20 units per acre over there, and it's not, and our boards and our townspeople don't say anything about it, it's either yes or no. And guess what? I think it could be no at town meeting in October.
That's up for town meeting. Like I said, I'm surprised every time I come to a meeting here with 7 of you.
I know a lot of people in this town that don't want to see mega apartments in town, and that's all we've been seeing.
I understand, but the average 1-bedroom apartment in this town is going for $1,500 a month.
It's supply and demand. You keep building more apartments, the property owners who have apartments in Middleborough are going to suffer too. You're not going to, they're simple multifamily homes that they're not going to rent because they're going to want the nice new luxury.
I guess my point is at $1,500 a month, I don't think anybody's going without tenants.
And I'm saying I don't think Middleborough needs to build all the Massachusetts apartments as a 40R.
Travel
trust me,
they're everywhere. It's not just here.
Darren, I've studied the housing for 3 years. I know we're like 17,000 homes a month behind in production, but they don't all have to be in our town.
They're not all going to be here, but we are 64 square miles. There's a lot of space here.
That's why the guys in Boston with the golden roof and everything are trying to push it out to the South Shore. They don't want it in their town like Swampscott or anything like that, so that's why they're incentivizing us with money. Our town's got to be smart enough to say this isn't fit with the character of Middleborough. It isn't why I moved to Middleborough. I like space, you know, I like nice and peace and quiet, and like everyone on the board talked about, it's like, that's why we're all in the town. A massive density structure with, you know, 20 units or 2.3, you know, kids per unit. Do the math on school, the police and fire, everything you guys talked about earlier in the meeting are a big concern. And I know we've drifted into 40R way away here, but I know we'll come back to that at some point. I guess I'll stop now.
That's all right.
I drifted away, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Jack, did you have something? No, I'm fine. Okay.
So Darren, do you want to do when I find out about the joint meeting, do that and then put this back on the agenda after?
Yeah.
That way we can get more answers to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, once we get the joint meeting under our belt, then we can decide if the board wants to take a position on this, and we can go forward with that.
That way at least we can get more answers on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not ready to,
Okay.
I won't entertain a motion on that just at this point, because I think it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we voting on? This document here? This is a draft, so I don't know what it's gonna look like. Joe, did you have a suggestion?
Mr. Chairman, again, I'll reiterate, good conversation, good discussion. If you have any questions that are not answered, submit them to Tammy. They will be submitted to the person who can answer them, and we'll get the answers before the meeting. Shame on us if we go into that meeting and we didn't send any questions, and then we start asking them then. Because that's not giving anyone an opportunity to get us an answer, and that's not giving the person who's asking the question an opportunity to get a fairly researched answer.
I have no problem with that, so if anyone has questions or concerns, stick them in an email.
I will be out of the office from June 18th to June 30th. So if you don't get a response, I will be away.
Feel free to copy me.
That's awesome.
Anyone on
Send
the
them
board
to, you
can
can send
copy
them
me.
to Joe, or just copy them to Tammy, and Tammy can forward them to Joe.
Perfect.
And if you just throw it in an email, I think that'll be the easiest way for everybody to correspond. Just remember, if we do get into a discussion online via email, and just for everybody else's edification, I don't respond to email unless I feel I have to, because when two or more of us get on an email, it becomes a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do not copy the rest of the board is what
Yeah,
they're
is what I'm saying, yeah, don't copy everybody, just send it to Tammy. If you want to send it to me, if you want to discuss it with me, I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you personally. I just don't want to turn it into an open meeting violation, and then everybody's, oh, you're having a meeting without having a meeting. I like to discuss everything in the meeting, that way everybody knows what I know for the most part. I mean, I do get contacted between meetings from other people, you know.
But all the idea is of the email is it would be forwarded to the person who can answer it,
Yeah,
and then they can answer it directly to the
yep,
person.
so I think that'd be the best course. And, you know, I'm sure all of us are gonna leave this meeting tonight and then go, you know, I was thinking about that, and this really bugs me too. We throw it in an email, we get an answer,
And then maybe the emails can be summarized prior to our next meeting.
that's fine. We can look at them, we can discuss them again if you want. We can leave that open on the agenda. We can do that if we need to. So our next meeting is July 8th?
July
8th,
8th.
yes.
Again, I'm supposed to be voting on that. I'm not gonna be here, I'll be in Dedham.
Okay,
So,
I'll let them know that.
What do we got for hearings for that day?
That's the only thing we have for a hearing that night.
Is,
For July 8th?
yeah.
Just
so
that
the
one.
only one is probably actually 4 by now. They may wanna restate it.
So, yeah, I'll definitely let them
I
know,
won't be
and
here
if,
July
So
Maybe
all
I
we
can
got
just-
is Diamond then?
that's it, so I can let
That's
them know
probably
that
gonna
Matt
be
will be
continued?
out and see if they'll want to continue to
Okay.
July 22nd.
Won't be there either.
Oh, that's right.
Softball started Tuesdays and Thursdays because my daughter
Okay.
couldn't play up, so they were out.
Chairman, you said the next meeting is
July-
Diamond?
I believe so, July 8th, yes.
Now, how long has that one been started? Isn't there a time period you mentioned earlier?
No,
that we have-
once you open the hearing, so long as both parties agree to continue, it can continue until it's completed.
Have they
Okay.
revised that they're gonna get resolved?
I haven't got anything yet from them. They were supposed to get back to me.
Because there was a
relatively
discrepancy
quickly.
on, what, 7,500 square feet or something like that?
Well, because of that
Infectious invalidity.
infectious invalidity,
They were looking to buy.
They were looking
land
to
from
buy-
a neighbor.
piece of land from the other abutter.
Right.
But I heard through the grapevine from a little bird that we'd end up with the same issue.
Because of,
Because you'd be taking, you'd make the other one
make the other one
non-conforming.
non-conforming.
So,
The meeting, July, you gonna do just in person?
yes.
If it was less units,
Yes.
I don't mind it.
So, starting in July, we'll be
I'd rather
in
that
person
than
meeting.
40
No Zoom
units
anymore.
on
No
one
Zoom.
acre.
Didn't Governor Baker say he was gonna extend the Zoom?
Well, he said we could, but I'm not interested in doing it.
Does the board have to vote to not continue it then?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Chairman controls the meeting.
Should have voted them out.
Damn it, we had the chance.
You had the chance.
Bob, you had your chance.
Mike,
Am I Bob again?
That was on purpose.
all right,
I'll
so
never hear the
July,
end of
so
that.
no more Zoom, so I don't have to do the links. I don't have
I'm
to-
not interested in doing Zoom anymore. If we get forced to do it, then if the governor says I have to do it, then we'll go back to it. But, other than that, if it's optional, I'm not interested.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to end the meeting and go home.
All right.
End the meeting and go home.
We have no more business before us. I'll entertain that motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second? Motion made and seconded. Joe?
Aye.
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Jack?
Aye.
Mike?
Or am I Bob?
Bob.
Aye.
Well, do you get 2 votes that way? I don't know.
Okay, Bob.